Alright guys, so we've got a 2012 Jeep Patriot that the owner of the car says that they get their ABS, stability control, and another light. I can't remember the three lights that come up on the dash, and it's random. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Everything seems to work alright, they said, but whenever I hook the scan tool to it, we're getting a C2200 code, which is an internal module fault code, and there's the module right there. It's the ABS module. So we're going to replace the module. I've got a used unit, so there might be some challenges to this, namely being writing the VIN to a used module. Some vehicles, the only way that a scan tool will write the VIN is if the module's brand new and has never been written to. I don't know if we're going to be able to write the VIN to this or not, but we're going to go ahead and replace it with the used unit. If we just don't have any luck, then they'll have to take it to a dealer and have them write it. But we'll see what we're going to be able to do with the scan tools that I have. Now let's go ahead and take a look. And I'm going to film changing this module out, but let's go over here and take a look at the used module, just so you kind of have an idea of what we're looking at. So this is the used module. It's out of a similar Jeep, either a Compass or a Patriot. This has got the bracket still attached to it. This is sitting in the car like this. There's where the connector goes. That's the motor for the pump. And then of course the module itself, the electronic part of it is this part right here, the black part. And you can see they've just cut the brake lines right off of it. Now there's a couple options you have to changing this out. And I'll show you how you can ops check your pump or your motor, and depending on the vehicle, you can a lot of times just take these 4 screws out right here and pull the module off, put the used module on, and not have to worry about bleeding your brake system. I don't think I'm going to have the room on this to be able to do that, so I'm going to just change the entire assembly out. The other option is to loosen this bolt out here, pull it off, get a pry bar or something, pop this up out of these grommets without taking this bracket off, depending on the vehicle you're working on and what ends up being easier. In this case, I'm going to loosen these 2 bolts up here, and the whole thing should pop up and pull right off once we disconnect the brake lines and the connector. So now that we've talked about that, let's get in here and let me kind of show you what we got, and I'll show you what you can do with a scan tool to make sure that the pump itself is good. Okay, so here we are on the scan tool. Now you can go into the, and this is what I did whenever I ordered the module, is I went into the module, the ABS module information, and I got the part number to the module. As you can see right here, it's a 6809-1115 AD, and I ordered that same part number. Of course, you got the VIN of the vehicle up top there. You got some software information there, and some other information. Ft-lbs is the manufacturer of the module. They manufacture ABS modules for all kinds of different makes and models. Now if you go here to read trouble codes, you can see we got a C2200 anti-lock brake module internal. Now I've already pulled the connector off. I made sure that there was no corrosion. All the pins look good. Didn't ring anything out, but what I did is I went over here to live data and I just looked down through all the PIDs, and I actually drove the vehicle around the block, made sure the wheel speed sensors were, I made sure everything looked normal, and everything did. The only anomaly that I could kind of find, and I don't know if it's actually a problem or not, and I'll show you, but first let's just scroll through all the different PIDs and let you take a look. I hit the brakes, you can see, it'll go from brake on, brake off. Like I said, everything looked fine whenever I drove it. But if you look at this very top PID, valve feed, let's go to graph because you can see it better. See how it kind of jumps from 10 volts to 5 volts? That may be perfectly normal. I have no idea. but that could also be the issue with the module itself. That could be why the module is troubleshooting itself and failing its own diagnosis and setting that C2200. Like I say, when we get the new module on, this is the one PID that I want to look at and see if it stays at a solid 10 volts or whatever, and or see if it still fluctuates the way it's doing there. Now, if you go over here into actuation test, you can actually see right down here, lower left corner, you got pump. You can kick the pump on, verify the pump does work. If the pump kicks on, sounds good, works fine, that's when you could confidently replace just the black electrical ABS module portion by removing the 4 screws and pulling just that part off of the pump assembly, and then putting the used one or even a new one on your pump assembly, and then you know, it should be fine. If the pump doesn't work, you're going to want to make sure that you replace the pump also. But let's go ahead and kick this on. You should be able to hear it. Hopefully you can hear that. Pump kicked on, sounds perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and back out of that. And you can go through and you can actually check all your valves and stuff with using this scan tool also. Now the one thing that and this is where I talked about the challenge earlier. If you go here to special functions, we have ABS initialization, which may be all we will need to do to get this thing going. Now, we're probably going to have a VIN mismatch, and if we do, I don't know if an ABS initialization will write the PCM VIN to the ABS module and fix that issue, if it is an issue. I do have another scan tool that we'll be able to try. The thing is, like I said earlier, I don't know if the only way you can write a VIN is with a new module, or if it'll actually write to a used one. Obviously we're putting a used one on, so we may have issues there. Anyway, let's go ahead and go out and get started on replacing the ABS module assembly. Now, first thing I'm going to do is remove this cover just to kind of give myself a little bit more room. Kind of opens it up a little bit more. And I'm also going to remove this shield. There's a little 10mm nut here. There's 2 down there. And what that's going to do is allow me to unsnap these brake lines out of the little plastic holders there, and hopefully be able to move those brake lines around a little bit more, so that I can finagle this module assembly out of here. And now on this particular vehicle, the reason that I am probably not going to try to replace just the black plastic, what I actually consider the ABS module, is because you can see how close tolerance it is back there. I could get to these 2 upper screws, but getting to the 2 lower ones would be a challenge, even if I got them all 4 out. Pulling that back enough to be able to get that out of there and then get the new one in and doing all that, I think it's going to be easier for me to just break these brake lines loose, pull the whole thing out of there and put the new one in, new/used, and go that route. The only drawback to doing it the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to have to bleed the hose system. But the scan tool does have a bleed function, so that I'll be able to actuate the ABS module and do a proper brake bleed. So anyway, let's go ahead and get after this. I'm going to get the camera mounted up, and we're going to get started. Now, to get this heat shield off, once you remove this very top nut, which, by the way, it looks like 10mm, it's actually 11mm, all you got to do is loosen the 2 bottom ones, and then you pull this down, and then you can pull the bottom out. As you can see, they're slotted. Let's throw that up there, and now you can kind of see what I was talking about as far as those brake lines. I'll be able to unclip them out of that plastic retainer, and I'll be able to move those around as needed to kind of help me get them out of my way or whatever I need to do to get the module removed. And so the first thing you want to do to help prevent any excess drain or any excess fluid loss from your master cylinder is push the brake pedal down slightly. Get you a brake depressor. This is what I use. I've actually got a video where you take one of these Harbor Freight clamps, and I've got a 3D file that I've made that you can download, and you attach it onto the tool, this tool here, and now you can use it as a brake depressor or even a throttle depressor. And since I'm doing this one-handed, I'm going to have to just jack this thing open. Normally you'd push the button and pull it to close to where you need it. But now, as you can see, as I pump the handle, I can push that brake. And the reason you want to do that might be a little too much, is the master cylinder has got a little shuttle valve in it. Well, if that shuttle valve is in the relaxed position and you break your brake lines loose, fluid will just gravity flow out. If you move that shuttle valve into the actuated position slightly, it blocks the ports to the reservoir, and your reservoir is not going to be able to drain out. I'd have to show you on like a schematic what I mean by that, but anyway, if you just slightly depress the brake pedal, it will prevent excess fluid loss. Anyway, let me get the camera mounted and we're going to get started. Okay, so the first step I'm going to do while this is still bolted up to the car is I'm going to loosen all the B-nuts here for the actual brake lines, and it's 12 millimeter. It's ideal to use a flare style wrench instead of just a regular open end, but I don't have a 12 millimeter flare wrench. So it looks like they're not too tight, and this wrench is doing just fine. And this particular wrench, I don't know if you see the teeth on it. This is my favorite wrench. My favorite set of wrenches are these Milwaukee. I forget what they call them, but it's got the teeth on the open end side, and they seem to work really, really good. I guess I need to go the right way on that one, don't I? And again, depending on what vehicle you're working on, if you can not take these off and just take your 4 screws out here, you can replace just this module and you won't have to worry about bleeding your brakes. Because to bleed these correctly, you've got to use a scan tool and actuate the valves. Because if you don't use a scan tool, you are going to have air trapped in the system, and you'll never get it out until you actuate the solenoids inside. If you guys need a really good mechanical fingers, I'll put a link to this one. I absolutely love that. It's been a lifesaver already numerous times. Make sure you have brake fluid on hand. And then I'll go ahead and take the lower bolts loose. Should not have to take the lower bolts completely out. And then this thing should hopefully be able to be finagled out of here. Now the connector, I'll show you that once I get it off. There's two little tabs that you push together, and then the connector will just pivot up. Hopefully that's coming through on the camera. There's not a whole lot of room, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close this release just to kind of compact it down a little bit. I'm going to take my ratchet with a, what size is that, 13mm, go underneath here. A little light always helps. Should just have to loosen these two bottom bolts. And this thing should come up. Make sure the connector's not holding it. Alright, got it locked in down at the bottom. Now all I've got to do is get the lines hooked up. I'm going to snug those two bolts up at the bottom just so that it will be closer in place where it's supposed to. Do not cross thread the nuts. Make sure that you can screw them in at least the first few threads by hand. Yeah, I'm going to tighten these up real quick and I'll turn the camera back on when I'm done. Okay, I got all 6 of the B nuts on the brake lines tight. For this connector, I want to show you. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to see this. Can you see that? Or no? I think you can see that, can't you? There's 2 tabs right here. You push these 2 tabs and then this thing will unlock and pull away from the module. Then to put it on, you just do the reverse. Just got to tighten the 2 lower bolts up and the installation's done. Alright, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and install the shield. Okay, so the new one is on. Took probably about 15 minutes total to, as soon as I started unbolting things, 15 minutes I had the new one on and installed. So it doesn't take that long of a deal. The shield, I probably didn't even need to take it off. I was able to get it out of there without having to disturb the brake lines, really hardly at all. Only thing I had to do is I kind of bent this AC line down just a little bit. It's held on with a bracket. You could take this 10mm bolt out and that'll flop around a little bit more, but you can see how bendable that bracket is. I just kind of pushed it down out of my way, and that helped me kind of get it out of there. So now let's go inside. I'm going to clean up and go inside the vehicle. Take the brake depressor out. Okay, we're in the car. We're going to hit, we'll do auto scan just to see if, I'm not going to start the engine. I got the key turned on. We'll just make sure the PCM and everything is going to be fine. I'm suspecting the only codes that we should have is in the ABS module. And we'll see what codes those are. Yeah, we got one in the HVAC, but I don't really care about that. Wireless control module, the WCM. Not worried about that. 7 codes in the ABS module. So let's see what they are. Read trouble codes. Sensor input circuit performance. Vehicle configuration mismatch. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and clear all these codes, and then we'll get the brakes bled, and then we're going to do the configuration or the initialization and see how that works. G sensor, that's part of that initialization, and I hope the vehicle configuration mismatch is also going to be part of that. And that initialization is right here, that ABS initialization. This is using the Xtool. Now what it will not do is a VIN rewrite. I may have to get another scan tool if we end up having to do that. But I'm going to try to do everything with the Xtool. So, and obviously if you see right here where it says bleed brakes, that's the part right now that I'm going to have to do. And it should walk me through it. I'm going to have to go get my son, because one of us is going to have to be in here while the other one is out at whichever bleeder port we're going to have to go to get this done. So let me go get my son, and we're going to get the brakes bled, then we'll do the initialization. Actually, before we do anything, let's go ahead and go to live data. Let's take a look at this valve feed that we it was dropping to 5 volts. Right now it's at 10. I'm going to hit the brake just to see if that made any change. 10 volts, it looks like so far it's staying at 10. Remember at the start of this video we looked at that and it was dropping off. That was the only thing as far as all these PIDs that I saw that looked out of the ordinary. So right now that's shown to be a solid 10 volts. So hopefully this is going to take care of the problem as far as getting that C2200 code. So anyway, so yeah, now I'm going to go get my son. We're going to get these brakes bled. And before we actually read the brakes, let's take a look. I'm going to go here to this read ECU information, and that's probably going to show, yep, see the VIN? That's not the correct VIN for this vehicle. It is showing to be the same exact part number, so that's good. I'd have to go back and look at the software version. Everything else looks good there. Read system configuration. Now there should be 3 true values on this. Yep, it's a T system, that is true. ESP, that is true. And BLS2 bus, no, PCM BLS true. Everything else should be false. So far everything's looking fine. Let's see if we can kick the pump on. Make sure it sounds good. Hopefully you can hear that. Let me roll the window down. It actually sounds smoother than the other one. I'm going to kick it on again. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's nice and quiet, smooth sounding, so that gives me confidence that this should be a good fix. Alright, let me go get my son so we can get these bled out. Alright guys, so we're out here at the vehicle getting ready to do the brake bleed. This procedure should be performed only after the system has been bled manually, which me and my son just finished the manual brake bleed. I'm going to hit OK. The reservoir is full of fluid. Press the brake pedal. Okay, press the brake pedal, son. Push and hold. Open the right front bleeder valve. See that it's pumping fluid, 80, 100%. Now I'm going to close it, hit OK, open the right rear bleeder valve. Keep your foot on the pedal. And there you have it. Okay, pump the pedal. So let me clean up and then we will make sure everything's good. Okay, before we do the ABS initialization, make sure your brake fluid reservoir is topped off. Make sure around your 6 B-nuts you don't have any fluid leakage. Make sure they're dry. If all that looks good, close the hood and go ahead and proceed with the initialization. We're getting ready to do that, so let me get set up and we're going to do that. You have to drive the car to initialize it. Alright guys, so we're getting ready to do this initialization. So we're just going to hit ABS initialization. Routine is to be used to initialize the ABS ECU after either ECU or related components replaced. Please verify that the vehicle is stationary on level ground with the wheels straight and the brake pedal released. Right now we've got ABS lights flashing up on the dash. Dismount the camera so you can kind of see what's going on here. And so I'm going to hit OK. ESP sensor initialization completed. Please continue to finish initialization of the ABS. Cycle ignition and press OK. In order to complete the drive test, the engine must be running at first, and then the vehicle has to be driven between 3 and 15 miles an hour with a turn that is at least 90 degrees wide. The ESP light will continue to flash till the drive test is complete. If the ESP light is on solid, then the drive test failed due to faulty components. Check for DTCs which might have set during the test drive. Okay, engine is started. Hit the brakes even if the vehicle has a manual transmission. Turn the steering wheel full left, full right, full left, and back to center. Hit continue and done. Let me left, right, left, back to center. And right now we have no lights. I don't know how centered we need to have the steering wheel, but I'm going to try to center it up perfectly. My foot is on the brake. Drive the vehicle between 3 and 15 miles an hour and make one turn that is at least 90 degrees wide. Continue straight 50 feet after turn and then come to a complete stop. Continue driving forward and then test. And if the test did not pass, repeat the process. So right now we do have flashing lights. So let's go ahead and back out of here and let's go for the drive. And I'm going to be curious to know if it goes ahead and writes the proper VIN to the ABS. Drive. Three and 15 miles an hour is what we're looking for. Lights are already out on the dash, so that's a good thing, I guess, as long as they stay out. Okay, we're actually going a little too fast there. Drop her down to 15. I'm going to turn right here. Okay, that should have been a 90-degree turn. They said go about 50 feet, then come to a stop. Okay. Got one light flashing. Well, now it shut off. Okay, let's go ahead and go back home and see how we did. Right now, all lights are off. Okay. Hit OK. Test in progress. Please wait. Drive test pass. Clearing rolls information. Engine must not be running. Okay, I turn the engine off. Turn off engine and turn ignition to run. Clearing rolls information passed. Test complete. Okay. ABS initialization successfully completed. Okay. Alright, so now the question is, did this change the VIN for us? And it did. 566502. That's the correct VIN for this vehicle. In fact, just to verify that, let's go here to the piece. I guess the PCM. Read ECU information. And here's the VIN, 566502. So we are good. All lights are off on the dash. I guess we need to check, make sure there's no codes. Read trouble codes. No trouble codes. So we are good to go. ABS module replacement with ABS initialization. And this was on a 2012 Jeep Patriot. We're done. You guys take care.